Good morning. My name's Caroline Millar. I'm here on our family farm in Angus, just north of Edinburgh in Scotland, and it's a pleasure to be with you this morning, coming to you for your Australian Agritourism Conference. I'm really sorry I can't be with you in person today. I would have loved to have been there, but I've got a family wedding in Ireland this weekend, and so I really hope that I'll be able to come to Australia soon and perhaps even attend your next agritourism conference when that takes place. So thanks very much for asking me to speak. I'm going to give you an insight into what is going on in Scotland with agritourism. We have been on a long journey so far, and at times it's felt really challenging to get to where we are today. But we are heading in the right direction to grow our sector in Scotland and have more recognition for it. And I'm going to share with you some of the things that we've done along the way and where we are just now and how we kind of move forward. As I said, it's not always been easy. It's been a bit of a hard slog. And I do know how much work is involved in either running a membership body, lobbying politicians, getting people to recognise how important something is, like your sector that you're passionate about. And so hopefully I can share some of our insights today, and we can continue to work closely together as two countries that are trying to very much grow agritourism. So just a bit about myself before I begin. So we are farmers in Angus. We have 3 small farms that together make up 950 acres, and we're a mixed family farm. So we have some cropping ground that you'll see here, where we grow oats, wheat and barley. And then we have some higher hill ground that you can see in the back, where we have our permanent pasture, and we have about 100 cows, breeding cows, producing Scotch beef. They're predominantly Hereford and Aberdeen Angus, and we cross those. We have about 470 breeding ewes, and we're lambing and calving in the springtime in March and April. And yeah, we're a sort of traditional mixed family farm. There's 3 generations of us on the family farm. Myself, my husband, our children. Finlay is 17 and Sophie's 15. They're both very involved in the family business. And my mother-in-law is also a partner in the farming business and involved in the family farm. So in 2005, having just had Finlay and knowing that the farm couldn't sustain 3 incomes or 3 generations with the income that was available, my husband Ross and I set about diversifying our farming business and opening our first hideaway, which you can see in the picture here. It's a traditional bothy. It's just at the top of the line of trees on the farm there. And that was what we did in 2005. We opened 1 property, converted an old building and opened it as a retreat for couples. We've then gone on to open 4 new properties, which were all designed by ourselves. They are more modern eco hideaways that are all 5-star accredited from Visit Scotland. And we have now 5 properties on the farm. We are just turning over under £500,000 per annum, and we welcome about 2,500 high-end spending guests to this area every year. So that's our agritourism business, and being involved in the wider sector, I think that knowledge of how to run your own business or the trials and tribulations of running your own business really puts you in a good place to be able to support other people as they try to grow their businesses too. And you can learn a lot from each other. And that knowledge sharing between businesses, I think, is one of the secrets of our success in Scotland, that we've managed to facilitate that, and that is really driving growth. So I also, since 2007, when I left my job after having my daughter, Sophie, I also have worked as a freelance consultant since then, supporting hundreds of different rural businesses and farmers to grow tourism and leisure. And I've also been involved in running some events and also facilitating our agritourism monitor farm programme in Scotland. So agritourism, this is how we would kind of define it in Scotland. We have a lot of people involved in selling farm food and produce direct, so farm retail. There's been a big explosion in the number of farm shops over the last 20 years. They can be quite large, kind of professional farm retail areas, right through to a small honesty hut on a farm. We also have traditional farm holidays, which have been in existence for a long time. Agritourism is not a new thing to anywhere in the world, but it's definitely not a new thing in Scotland. And I was brought up on a farm where we did farmhouse bed and breakfast in the 1970s and 1980s. And I would say accommodation is still a huge part of our sector offering, although there's been a decline in farmhouse bed and breakfast and an increase in the number of self-catering properties on farms, ranging from glamping pods, tree huts, large lodges, traditional farm cottages that are rented out for agritourism, and everything through to sort of castles can be 3-star through to 5-star. So accommodation is really important for our sector in Scotland. And then over the last 10 to 20 years, a huge increase in the offering for days out and experiences on farm. More places popping up where you can have a lovely meal in a farm cafe. A lot of sports and activities taking place. So we have a business that we work with that has Loch Lomond right next to it and does water sports, speedboat tours, those kind of things, mountain bike hire, and then an increase, particularly in the last 5 years, of farm tours and other types of tours on farm. Then a lot of different events now, from lambing events in the springtime to pumpkin festivals in the autumn, and people getting married on farms and event hire. So this is how we would really categorise what agritourism looks like in Scotland. And all these areas are finding that they're seeing increased consumer demand for these types of activities. And this is what we're trying to do in Scotland. We're trying to use the Go Rural consumer-facing brand, which we've developed as a mark that you're on a real working farm. And we're trying to get as many real working farms as possible to work with us. Scottish Agritourism is the sector business-to-business facing organisation, and Go Rural is the consumer-facing brand which we use to market farms in Scotland. And we have over 300 individuals across 160 businesses working with us just now. And we really hope we can increase that number. So the Go Rural consumer campaign, or the Go Rural brand, has gone down very well with consumers, and we're working hard to increase awareness of Go Rural. We've been doing radio campaigns recently. We work with partners such as Visit Scotland, who are our national marketing agency for Scotland, and Quality Meat Scotland, who promote Scotch beef and Scotch lamb, working in partnership to promote the Go Rural brand to get as many people onto Scottish farms. That does not only include international visitors and people from the rest of the UK, but very much a local visitor as well, somebody who every Thursday goes to the local farm shop and has lunch there and buys their shopping for the week, just as much as somebody flying in from Australia for a 3-week holiday in Scotland. We have invested in the last 2 years in a website GoRuralScotland.com. It's been a mammoth undertaking. It still needs, as all websites do, ongoing a lot of new content, a lot of work, a lot of SEO to really drive as much traffic as possible. I'd say it's like having a baby. You think once you've given birth to it, then the worst of the pain is over, but it's just beginning. So we will have to do a lot of work to continue to really grow the brand and use the investment that we've made in the new site to drive as much traffic as possible for our businesses that are listed on it. We now have e-commerce functionality, so we can take bookings direct from the public, and we can take a commission for those bookings, and all that money is invested back into the marketing of our members. I just want to share a little bit about Scotland. So Scotland, in terms of its land base, 98% of Scotland is classified as rural and 2% as urban. And 83% of the population of Scotland live within that urban land base of 2%, with the remaining 17%, covering a wide, vast area of Scotland. So in terms of our population, our urban city dwellers are a really important market for us, people that want to come out of the city. They don't quite know where to visit, they don't know where they can walk or where they can cycle, and these are an important market for us in terms of agritourism. I want to talk about some of the key things that have really helped drive agritourism growth in Scotland, and also things that have really helped me personally in terms of trying to drive the sector forward and my own kind of leadership development. So in 2012, I was really fortunate to be awarded a Nuffield Farming Scholarship, and I travelled over 16 weeks to 10 different countries. And given that in my early 20s, I'd worked in Australia and New Zealand for 2 years with my husband on a working holiday visa, I was delighted to be able to come back to Australia and to look at agritourism in Australia. I can't go through everywhere that I visited during my scholarship, but I just want to highlight one or two places which are very special to me. One was Tim and Jane Parsons on Karinga Farm in Tasmania. You'll see here a picture of myself with my son Finlay, who was 7 at the time, and we had the farm tour, and Tim was so inspiring for me. I actually wrote about Tim and Jane in my final Nuffield report, and I spoke about their business at the Oxford Farming Conference, where I presented some of my Nuffield findings in 2014. And I was just amazed how you could charge people money and bring a tour to life and talk about a wombat poo, and people were interested in listening to what all about wombats, even though they're nocturnal and there was none out when we were there, but we're happy to be photographing a wombat poo. So that was very inspiring for me, and I think that level of farm tour income is something that I've managed to take home, that those learnings to Scotland, and has inspired a lot of different farm tours to start up here. Another place that's very special to me in Australia is Kangaroo Island, and a good friend of mine, Carly, has set up the stowaways on Kangaroo Island, which were inspired by her visit to our hideaways. So I can't wait to go back and see what she has developed. When I was last there in 2017, I was just there helping her with getting the business up and running. So it shows you that international knowledge exchange can work in the favours of both countries, and there's so much we can learn from each other. But my Nuffield, I really put that to good use and used the information I gained on my scholarship to start to do hundreds of talks when I came back, lobbying government, speaking to politicians, and that sort of really tried to raise the profile of agritourism as an opportunity for Scotland. Just one of the other things that I found really was just the economic impact of agritourism in some other countries. And I'm always struck by places like Austria and Italy, where the value of the sector is over €1 billion per annum. And I really hope that Scotland and Australia can get to those kind of levels as well, because it's such an amazing opportunity for rural economic growth. Another thing that's really helped our sector move forward in Scotland is investment from the public sector into knowledge exchange. So we have had investment through Scottish Enterprise, who are one of our national economic development agencies, and they invested in this programme, which has been, there's been 4 different programmes. There was an 18-month programme across 2 farms in 2014 to 2016, and we've just finished a 3-year programme across 2 farms from 2019 to earlier this year. I'll not go into all the detail on this programme just now, but I'm very happy to share information and the final report with anyone who's interested. But basically, it's bringing different business owners together, and it's facilitating knowledge exchange between them in order that they take away a nugget from someone else, they share some knowledge, they gain some knowledge, and through doing that, they start up new enterprises, they grow their existing business, they become better at benchmarking or marketing or other areas. And it really is a big driver for growth in Scotland. The other thing that we did was we tracked the business's progress very meticulously across the 3 years that we've just finished the programme that we're in. It meant that we can demonstrate to government the value of the investment that was made and the return that that has delivered so far for the rural economy. Again, I am happy to speak about this in more detail, but this is one of the key drivers of growth in Scotland at the moment, and we hope there will be more monitor farm programmes. The other thing we've done, which has helped us a great deal, is to define what agritourism is. So we've had a lot of different discussions with people, and in the end, we thought we could go around in circles here. We can't wait for the international community to set what an international definition is. So we've defined it ourselves in Scotland as tourism or leisure on a working farm, croft or estate which produces food. This activity of defining what agritourism is has really helped us. We did this 2 years ago. It has made the consumer offering of agritourism much clearer. It's helped us drive consumers to visit farms, because they are not going to turn up and find that a farmhouse doesn't have a working farm behind it, and somebody's just bought a farmhouse and moved in there and they've got a few chickens in a garden. The consumer offering is much better. It's brought the sector together. It's made it a clearer offering, and it's made it much easier to deal with politicians and government, that we are much more clearly defined. So I would encourage you in Australia to do the same if you haven't already done so. And what agritourism is really all about in Scotland is making family businesses sustainable. Our farming families have a massive cultural value to them. So this is the Lennox family here, who were one of our monitor farms, and they have been tenant farms in this farm overlooking Loch Lomond since 1750. Kay on the right here is the 11th generation to be farming. She's the first female on the lease, and without the agritourism, there would only really be one man and a dog on the farm. The farm could not sustain all these people to have an income, but the tourism side needs the farm side to be agritourism, and the farming side needs the tourism side to pay its way. Just going back again to the Go Rural investment that we've made on the website, this is just an example of one of the businesses here and how the website promotes their business. And a lot of the work that we've done over the period from 2008 up till 2020 was all moving towards having a proper strategy in place for agritourism growth in Scotland. We have had so many meetings with economic development professionals, politicians at a national level, at a local level, to tell them about agritourism. And we continue to have those conversations with them and to lobby about how important agritourism is for Scotland as an opportunity for rural economic growth. We had a huge breakthrough last year when agritourism was in the manifesto for two of our political parties, the Scottish National Party and the Green Party, as they went into their election campaign. And when the Scottish Government, the new Scottish Government, was formed by the Scottish National Party, they made a commitment in their first 100 days to deliver a strategy for agritourism. So that has taken 12 years to get to that point, or 13 years of intensive activity. Much of that time is driven by many volunteers, but we finally kind of got there. And now we have this strategy, and I think it has been shared with yourselves in Australia as you try to develop your strategy. It's only the start of the journey now, so now it's the implementation. But fundamentally, we want to double the number of farms in agritourism by 2030. We want 50% of farms in Scotland to be offering a food and drink experience as part of a visit or a stay by 2030. So really emphasising the agri side of agritourism and the food and drink. And also we want to double the value of agritourism. We currently measure the value of agritourism to be around £112 million direct to the Scottish economy, and we want to make that into 250 million by 2030. So there is a lot of work to be done. We've now gone into a time of post-COVID and recession looming, with not a lot of money going about to invest in supporting some of these activities. But it is important that we focus on the short, medium and long-term aims, and the private sector continues to work in a very constructive way with the public sector to grow agritourism in Scotland. This is our Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture and Rural Affairs, Marie Goujon, and she is very much behind what we're doing, and that support from sort of within the Cabinet in Scottish Government is really helping us as well. This just demonstrates, currently what we have in terms of the number of farmers and crofters producing food, or not producing food, sorry, offering food as part of a stay at the moment. So it's very small. We have just, this ambition to have 50% of farms offering food and drink by 2030. So we have quite a steep ambition to achieve this. One of the other things that's really helped us in Scotland is we have, appointed 15 destination leaders from throughout Scotland who are volunteers who try to help grow agritourism in their own part of Scotland. They are the people who will support our members. They are people who will try and approach businesses who aren't involved in Scottish agritourism and get them to join and be members. They will host politicians on farms. They will speak to local press. And that has been a huge opportunity for us to make sure that Scotland has agritourism thriving in all parts of rural Scotland and not just in certain parts. You'll see as well, it's not intentional, but agritourism is a great thing for improving equality and diversity on farms. the fact that there's so many women here that are representing agritourism businesses. If we didn't have the agritourism businesses on the farms, most of these women would be off work, off the farm and working in the local town or village, or their husbands would be off farm working in the local town or village. Because of agritourism, multiple people can find income on farms. But it does really re-emphasise, it's great to see, equality increasing in rural Scotland as well. So in terms of how we go forward, we'll be working hard with other public agencies. We represent the private sector very much in Scotland. We have the private sector all in this coherent network, and there's multiple agencies in the public sector who have an interest in seeing agritourism grow as well. We developed Scottish Agritourism as a membership organisation in June 2020, so it's very, very young. But certainly having a membership body does have its challenges, but it's got clear advantages that people have something very specific to agritourism that they can join and be part of. And our core focus is agritourism. So we want to grow the membership, and we want to grow the interaction with consumers through the Go Rural brand. We're now at the implementation stage of the strategy, so there's a number of actions in our strategy which we're working with others to take forward. Things like there's a current discussion as to whether agritourism should be an agricultural activity as defined in law in Scotland and what advantages that would have. Also, we would like to have more monitor farms to continue the investment in knowledge exchange. That's very important for us. So also another thing which has really helped us is becoming part of a strong international network. And this is where, I'm talking to you today from Scotland and you're in Australia. So I really hope that you will come to Scotland and we could host you here. We could host an official exchange if that was something that people wanted to do. We would certainly love to bring out some businesses from Scotland on a learning journey to Australia, because there's so much we can learn from each other. And this was the World Agritourism Conference, the first one in 2018 in Bolzano in Italy. And we've just been to Vermont to the second World Agritourism Conference, which was there. And I know that Tim from Tasmania was there as well. It was fantastic to see him. And it'd be great to have Australia actively playing a part in any future kind of world agritourism network, which discussions are now underway about that. I think you can learn so much from other countries, find out what's working, find out what's not working, and take it home to your own country. Finally, I'd just like to say thank you very much for listening to what I have to say. I'm not a fan, as I said, of these recorded Zooms coming to you at a live conference. I would love to be with you on the stage, speaking to you in person, but I hope this has at least given you some sort of insight into what's going on in Scotland at the other side of the world. And I really want to work with you to support what you're doing in Australia. And I can't wait to see some of you in person and get back to Australia soon. I wish you all the best for a successful conference and a successful launch of your strategy going forward. Thank you very much.